who just so happens to be a young Jason Todd. Batman says, "You're gonna give me back my tires," but Jason Todd hits him with a tire iron and runs off. Yeah, Jason even as a young kid had some big cojones. Anyway, Batman follows him back to a crappy apartment where Jason lives and finds Jason smoking. If you haven't put two and two together by now, Jason was now made into a young brat of a kid who stole, smoked, and was definitely not a Boy Scout, which I personally love. It makes him a lot more interesting as a character. In any case, Batman finds out that he lives there alone and that his dad Willis Todd is a criminal who Jason thinks is probably in jail again. But we later find out he was killed by Two-Face. As for his mom Catherine, she died from a disease. So by the end of Batman 409, after saving Jason from the corrupt Ma Gun's school for boys, Batman's like, "You can ride with me." Once in the Batmobile, Jason says, "You know, if you turn me over to the social workers, the chances of a kid my age finding a decent home are slim." Batman replies, "Don't bet on it, Robin." And just like that, Batman started training Jason to be the new Robin. Because remember, Dick was off doing his own thing with the Teen Titans at this point in time. One thing to remember though is that Jason wasn't a skilled acrobat like Dick, which helped Dick immensely in developing his crime-fighting skills. Jason was just an angsty, angry kid filled with rage because of the crap childhood he had. So Jason was trained for 6 grueling months by Bruce. He was trained in martial arts, weapons, computers, science, everything. At the end of which, Batman presented him with his very own Robin costume. And that's how Jason started his crime-fighting career. But now let's get into story arcs and see how the Red Hood came about. After Jason became the new Robin, he would fight alongside Batman for roughly a year. At first, Dick, now Nightwing, didn't appreciate Bruce getting Jason to take over his Robin persona, but he eventually came to accept Jason as the new Robin. After this, we got the ever so famous story, Batman: A Death in the Family, which many Batman fans know is where the Joker killed Jason Todd. But of course, I'm going to tell you how we got there. At the beginning of the Death in the Family story, we see Jason has become way more reckless and arrogant with his actions during crime fighting, even disobeying direct orders from the Batman. When Batman reams him saying, "You nearly got yourself killed. What do you think we're doing here, playing some sort of game?" To which Jason says, "Of course, all life's a game," as he storms off. Because of this, Bruce started talking to Alfred saying he may have started Jason off as Robin before he had a chance to come to grips with the death of his parents. First his mom, who's been dead for years, and then his dad, who's presumed to be killed by Two-Face. Anyway, Bruce continues to tell Alfred he's thinking of making Jason take some time off from being Robin. Jason overhears this conversation and of course becomes extremely pissed with Bruce and storms out of Wayne Manor. He ends up going back to his old neighborhood and comes across an old friend of his mother's. She tells him to come up to her apartment as she has a box of his mom's stuff that she's kept for him. In said box, he found his birth certificate and saw that his mom's name started with an S, meaning his real mother wasn't Catherine. But luckily, he also found his father's address book in the box as well, and it just so happened to have 3 women's names in it that started with the letter S. Well, thinking Batman wasn't going to help him find out who his biological mother was, he typed these 3 names into the Batcomputer: Charmin Rosen, Shiva Wusan, aka Lady Shiva, and Dr. Sheila Haywood. And after finding out where they were located, he stole several of Bruce's credit cards and goes abroad looking for his real mother. Now at this point in time, Joker is in the Middle East looking to hijack some warheads. Meanwhile, Batman is currently looking for both Jason and the Joker, and eventually finds Jason and then starts helping him find out who his real mother is. Jason finally finds out who his real mother is, which is Dr. Sheila Haywood. But before he could arrive to meet his mother, the Joker gets to her first. You see, she's in charge of the distribution of all medical supplies in her region. But the Joker knows her from Gotham in her early years and knows she previously performed illegal operations on teenage girls, one of which resulted in a death. Obviously, if her superiors found out about this, she would be fired on the spot. So he blackmailed her into giving him 6 truckloads of medical supplies that he would be able to sell on the black market. After this, Jason goes to meet his real mom and the two get acquainted. It's actually kind of sweet, but he soon finds out she's being blackmailed by the Joker. So he goes and tells Batman, and Batman devises a plan and tells Jason to stay put and wait till he gets back. To not attack the Joker alone, he's too dangerous for him to handle. But of course, Jason doesn't listen and reveals to his mother that he's Robin and he can help her. But after he offers the help, she leads him to a warehouse where the Joker is there waiting for him. She then reveals to Jason that him catching the Joker and turning him in will also cause an investigation that will unveil all the money she's been embezzling. So pointing a gun at her son, she asks the Joker, "What should we do with him?" The Joker says, "Something I've wanted to do for years." So the Joker starts to beat the ever-living crap out of Jason with a crowbar. Joker then ties his mom up and leaves the two of them locked up in a warehouse with a bomb. Shortly after the Joker leaves, the bomb goes off and Batman eventually comes back to see that his partner is dead. After this, Batman's heart is broken and he blamed himself. so he would display Jason Todd's Robin costume in a glass case in the Batcave as a memorial piece, which of course became one of the many iconic pieces and mainstays of the Batcave, along with the giant penny and the T-Rex. But as I say, no one really stays dead in comics. So years later, when Superboy Prime was punching his way into the main reality, the reality warping effects of his punches brought Jason back to life. He literally dug himself out of his own grave. We would later learn in the Red Hood Last Days story that Talia al Ghul learned about Jason's resurrection and had him abducted and brought to her. She did this because she thought Batman's former protege would be worth something to them, even though her father Ra's al Ghul didn't agree. Now, even though Jason was resurrected, he suffered from brain damage and other injuries, so Talia put him in the Lazarus pit to heal him. After this, Jason learned that after his murder, Batman did the same thing he always did to the Joker: send him back to jail. This, of course, was way too much for Jason to handle, especially it being only a few days after he was put in the Lazarus pit, which has dramatic effects on a person's mind. Jason was in shock and couldn't believe Batman didn't kill the Joker after what he did to him. Jason was like, am I just an expendable soldier that clearly meant nothing to Batman? This line of thinking led to him wanting revenge on both the Joker and Batman. So when Talia told Jason about an upcoming attack on Batman in Gotham planned by a man calling himself Hush, he meets with Hush and is like, hey, I want in. I want to mess with Batman's head. Hush lets him in on it, and during the end of Batman Hush, when the story comes to a climax, Jason Todd reveals himself to Batman. It messes with Batman's head at first, as clues did lead the Dark Knight to believe it was the real Jason. But at some point during the fight, Clayface switched with the real Jason and started impersonating him. After this, Talia left a gift for Jason, which included a blade and his now iconic red helmet. That's right, if you didn't know already, Talia al Ghul is the one responsible for Jason's awesome red helmet. But this, my friends, brings us to the amazing Under the Red Hood story. But first, how about some Verve? Yes, today's episode is once again sponsored by our good friends over at Verve. But you may be asking, Eris, what is this magical Verve that you speak of? Well, my comic comrades, Verve is spelled VRV, and it's one of our favorite streaming services for anime, retro classic shows, and original content. Verve's got fan favorite shows like My Hero Academia, Gary and His Demons, Bravest Warriors, and classic Nickelodeon shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Aerial Monsters, Rocket Power, and a bunch more. But they just keep getting better. Verve has now added Boomerang and High Dive channels to their lineup, bringing classic shows like Johnny Quest and anime shows like High School of the Dead to your faces. Now let's be honest, I know you want it and you know you want it, so click the link in the description or go to verve.co/variant and Verve is gonna hook you guys up with a free 30-day ad-free trial of their Verve Premium subscription. And did I mention you could download the Verve app now on Apple TV, Xbox, PlayStation, iOS, or Android, so you could watch all these glorious shows and movies from almost anywhere. Again, just go to verve.co/variant now to start watching great content or any of their 12 must-have channels, like Nick Splat, Crunchyroll, Cartoon Hangover, Boomerang, and more. That's verve.co/variant or click the link in the description for your 30-day ad-free trial of Verve Premium. And as always, you'll thank us later. Okay, I'm sure many of you have seen the awesome animated movie Batman Under the Red Hood, which was adapted from the comics. If you haven't, you need to do that, like immediately. Well, maybe wait until after the episode. In the story, Jason Todd takes up the identity of Red Hood, basing it off of the Joker's former identity. And let me just say, the fact that he stole the former identity of the man who killed him is brilliant. But back in Gotham, the Red Hood is there not to fight crime, but to be a dark influence, and most of all, avenge his own death. In fact, because he's a boss, he almost immediately took over the entire drug trade by decapitating all the lieutenants of the top street dealers in Gotham. That's just savage. He then told the dealers that he would be taking 40% of all profits from then on, and set a new rule that they weren't allowed to sell to any kids, and if they did, he would kill them. Simple as that. He also made moves to get the attention of the Black Mask. Later in the story, Amazo also shows up at one point and fights Batman and Nightwing. It's pretty awesome. Long story short, Red Hood inevitably comes into conflict with Batman, where he reveals to Batman that he is indeed Jason Todd, and he's back from the dead. The story eventually ends with Jason taking the Joker hostage and telling Batman, you've ignored what he's done in the past, blindly, stupidly disregarding the entire graveyards he's filled, the thousands who have suffered, the friends he's crippled. I thought killing me that I'd be the last person you'd ever let him hurt. If it had been you he beat to a bloody mass, if it had been you he left in agony, if he had taken you from this world, I would have done nothing but search the planet for this pathetic pile of evil and sent them off to hell. Batman replies with, you never understood. I want him dead maybe more than I ever wanted anything. But if I do that, if I allow myself to go down into that place, I'll never come back. Which also gives us the answer to why Batman doesn't kill. After this, Jason threatens to kill the Joker if Batman wouldn't, and starts counting down, so Batman chucks a batarang at Jason's neck to stop him. Batman just can't get himself to use a gun or kill. And then the Joker says to Batman, one of my favorite lines in all of comic books, "Oh God, I love it. You managed to find a way to win, and everybody still loses." It's just the biggest insult to injury line ever, and then the Joker proceeds to blow up the building. Of course everyone lives, but it's still crazy. After this, Jason would continue as the anti-hero Red Hood. And during the battle for the Cowl storyline, when Bruce was thought to be dead, it causes everyone to battle for the Cowl, to take up the mantle of the Batman. Jason took it upon himself to put on an awesome Batman costume, wield 2 guns, and be a badass Batman that uses lethal force. Of course it didn't last long, and Dick Grayson ultimately won the Cowl and became the new Batman, and made Damian Wayne the new Robin. As for Jason, he eventually accepted that Dick was the new Batman. So he was like, you know what? I'm gonna be Dick's direct competition, and made a new, more dramatic costume for his Red Hood identity. He even got a sidekick, Scarlet, who is the daughter/victim of Professor Pig. But this all went away, however, when the New 52 happened in 2011. The New 52 would pick and choose what they wanted to keep from many characters past, Jason Todd included. They even gave us a new retelling of Jason's origin, which was very similar to his post-Crisis one. But the most prevalent thing the New 52 did for the Red Hood was create the Red Hood and the Outlaws, or simply, the Outlaws. They're a team of vigilantes led by the Red Hood. The team originally consisted of Red Hood, Arsenal, and Starfire. More recently, however, in DC Rebirth, the team reformed and consisted of Red Hood, Artemis, and Bizarro. The DC Rebirth Outlaws were actually referred to as DC's Dark Trinity, as each Outlaw member is related to the main DC Trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Personally, I think that's really cool. As for Red Hood and DC Rebirth, if you want to know more about that, check out our all-new Red Hood episode to see what's currently going on with him. I would talk about it here, but I would literally just be repeating everything I already said in that episode. But if you want a super quick version, he got into a fight where Bruce was kicked out of Gotham, got an all-new look, and is more violent than ever. With that said, let's talk about some powers and abilities. As one would assume, being trained by Batman makes you an incredibly dangerous individual in every aspect. Jason is extremely well versed in science, medicine, math, criminology, English, and world history. He was also trained by Talia al Ghul, who paid for tutoring in explosives, strategy, weapons, poisons, vehicles, stealth, antitoxins, and surveillance. And being a former Robin, Red Hood possesses all the skills someone trained by the Dark Knight would have. With that said, he lacked the experience and natural skills that Dick Grayson and Tim Drake have. Red Hood is easily one of DC's top martial artists, and a master of Aikido, Capoeira, Karate, Ninjutsu, Krav Maga, kickboxing, taekwondo, and many more, as he knows well over a dozen forms of martial arts. His own personal fighting style focuses on brutality, speed, and strength. Because of his skill set and brutality, Jason could easily be considered one of the deadliest characters in the DC universe. With that said, his rage is also his weakness, as Batman has even told him. It blinds him in battle, so much so it leaves him open to physical and even mental attacks. Being a member of the Bat family, Red Hood has an array of gadgets, the list of which is almost endless. You name it, he probably has it. Most notably, however, are his 2 sidearms, a pair of customized Jericho 941s. They have extra serrations and mini red dot sights, because again, anti-hero. He isn't scared of killing people if need be. His costume consists of body armor, and being that he wears a red helmet, his head is more protected than most. With that said though, I'm sure you guys want some Red Hood.
Big mistake coming here. Big mistake. I'm gonna tear you apart.
Blah, blah. Keep on jamming.
Red Hood. To pieces. You piece of trash. ahead.
Really that bad, Roman? Can't be. You really can't be.
You're gonna learn. Don't let him touch you. Now die! I'm gonna shove that. Hey, kid! You don't scare me! You're scared! Make him pay for that! You don't stand a chance!
Out of Gotham. Blah, 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 blah. You're done, Roman.
Take him down! Let's put you in a body bag. Let's see you next. You're less than.
Keep talking, loser.
You don't need to do this. Give your money. Drugs, your guns, weapons, whatever you want. Please, I'll take a plane, leave Gotham, never show my face again. Anywhere you want, I'll go anywhere.
How about you go to hell? Say hi to Joker for me.